Our neighbor lost her husband last year. We took her food, helped with groceries. Then she started referring to my husband as my rock. I thought it was harmless. Until she left a doormat at our front door that read "Home of Us Too." Then my husband started leaving earlier. Staying out later. One night I found her in my kitchen, washing dishes. He forgot his keys, she said. But he'd been home all night. And her car had never left. My husband and I have lived in a quiet neighborhood in Franklin, Tennessee for almost 12 years. It's the kind of place where people wave when they drive by, kids sell lemonade in the summer, and you know most of your neighbors by name, even if you don't talk much. 2 doors down from us lived Marla and Dennis. Retired couple. No kids. They mostly kept to themselves, but they were always polite. Marla liked gardening. Dennis liked grilling in his backyard while old rock played on the radio. Everything changed last spring. Dennis died suddenly. It was a heart attack. He'd just come back from the store and collapsed in their driveway while unloading bags. I heard her screaming from inside our house. By the time the ambulance came, he was already gone. Marla was a wreck. I mean, who wouldn't be? One minute you're married, the next you're completely alone. She didn't have family nearby, no one to lean on. I felt awful for her. I brought over a casserole the next day. She opened the door, red eyes, looked like she hadn't slept. She said thank you, barely above a whisper. After that, I made it a point to check in. I'd text her before grocery runs. James, my husband, even offered to help fix a leaking pipe in her garage. I didn't think much of it, we were being good neighbors. Human beings. You help someone when they're down. At first, she kept her distance. Would thank us, take the food, and close the door quick. But a few weeks later, she started chatting. Then she came over one Saturday with banana bread and sat on the porch with us. She started acting normal again, or so I thought. We had her over for a cookout in early summer. Small thing. Just burgers and beer with a couple neighbors. I remember that day clear as anything because it was the first time she said something that didn't sit right. We were sitting at the table in the backyard. James brought her a fresh beer, and she raised it toward him with a smile and said, "To my rock." I blinked. James laughed awkwardly and made a joke about lifting her new garden pots once. But I noticed the way she said it. Soft. Personal. Like it meant more than just a thank you. I didn't bring it up then. I told myself not to be paranoid. She was just lonely. But after that day, things started shifting. She started texting James directly. Little things at first. Hey, can you take a look at my porch light? Mind helping move a shelf? She'd always include me in the group chat, but it became clear she was really just reaching out to him. Then came the doormat. It was a Tuesday morning. I opened our front door to let the cat out and saw a brand new mat at our doorstep. Ours was old and faded. This one was clean, crisp, and read, "Home of Us Too." I stared at it for a solid minute. My stomach dropped. I knew I didn't order that. James would never buy something like that. It was way too on the nose. I looked down the street. Marla's car was in her driveway. I didn't say anything right away. I took the mat, put it in a garbage bag, and stuffed it in the garage. When James came home, I asked him about it. He acted like he had no idea what I was talking about. Said maybe it was a delivery mistake. I let it go. But he didn't ask any follow-ups. Didn't seem curious. Just blank. Then he started leaving earlier. He used to leave at 7:15 for work. Suddenly it was 6:30. He said he needed to get ahead of things. He started getting home later, too. Told me there were extra meetings, work dinners, whatever. But he wouldn't let me call him during those times. Always I'm driving or can't talk right now. I know what that looks like. But still, I didn't want to accuse him without proof. Until one night proved it all. I was homesick from work. Stomach bug. I fell asleep on the couch around 7. James had said he was home late again for closing meetings. But around 9:30, I heard noise in the kitchen. Not loud. Just water running and clinking dishes. I figured he'd gotten back quietly. But when I walked in, it wasn't James. It was Marla. Washing my dishes. In my kitchen. She turned around like it was the most normal thing in the world. She smiled and said, "He forgot his keys." I was just dropping them off. I couldn't speak. I couldn't move. Because James wasn't out. He'd been home the night before. We'd watched TV. He'd showered. I saw his keys on the counter before I dozed off. And I knew her car hadn't moved from her driveway all day. I'd seen it parked there when I took out the trash that morning. So how did she get in? Why did she think it was okay to walk into my house? Why was she in my kitchen acting like she belonged there? That moment broke something in me. She looked at me like I was the stranger. Like I was the outsider. Like she was where she was supposed to be. I didn't confront her. Not right then. I couldn't trust what would come out of my mouth. Instead, I nodded and walked past her to the bathroom. I locked the door and sat on the edge of the tub. And then I started planning. Because this woman? This woman I brought food to, helped grieve, treated like a friend? She was trying to steal my husband. And I was done being polite. I didn't sleep that night. James came to bed like nothing happened. I watched him breathe while he slept, like he wasn't lying to my face every day. I laid there in the dark, wide awake, thinking about how I'd helped that woman survive the worst year of her life, and this was how she repaid me. The next morning, I acted normal. Made coffee. Kissed James goodbye like usual. But the second he walked out the door, I started digging. First, I checked the house. Every drawer. Every cabinet. I found nothing, until I opened the junk drawer in the kitchen. Under the batteries and pens, I found a second key. A shiny one with a tag labeled side door. It wasn't ours. That's when it hit me. James had made her a copy. She didn't drop off keys. She had a key. I felt sick. I put the key back and started checking our home cameras. We'd had a basic ring system for a few years, and James had set it to private mode so the alerts only went to his phone. But I still had access to the account. I pulled up the logs. And there she was. Marla had been in our house 3 other times that week. Twice while I was at work. Once at night, while I was in the shower. She never knocked. She just walked in through the side door. One of the clips showed her entering with a small bag of groceries. Another showed her leaving with a pie dish. The last one made my skin crawl. She came in, went into the living room, and just sat on the couch for 20 minutes before leaving. I printed every screenshot. Every timestamp. I put them in a folder and locked it in my desk. Then I waited. That Friday, I told James the first had a work meeting after hours. I didn't. I parked 2 streets over, walked back, and waited in the bushes near the side of our house. At 6:47 p.m., I watched Marla walk right into my home like she lived there. She had a grocery bag in her hand and wore a blue dress I'd never seen before. The kind women wear when they want to be noticed. I waited 10 minutes. Then I walked in the front door. She was in the kitchen again. Setting the table. 2 wine glasses. 1 steak. A candle. "Where is he?" I asked. She jumped. He's not here yet," she said quickly. That was all I needed. I walked straight to the hallway, opened the door to the garage. And there he was. James. Sitting on the steps, head in his hands like a man waiting for a bomb to go off. He looked up and didn't even act surprised. Just said, I didn't know how to tell you. That was the moment something in me hardened. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just said, good. You won't have to. Then I walked back into the kitchen, picked up the wine glasses, and threw them in the sink. Hard. Both shattered. Marla flinched. I got right in her face and said, you walk into my house again, I call the cops. And next time? I won't just be polite. She didn't say a word. James followed me around the house while I packed a bag. I didn't cheat, he kept saying. We didn't do anything. I didn't answer. I didn't care. Because this wasn't just about sex. It was worse. It was betrayal. I left that night. Went to stay with my sister in Murfreesboro. But I didn't stay quiet. I had plans. The first few days at my sister's place, I barely spoke. She knew something was wrong the minute I showed up with a half-packed duffel and a blank stare. I told her the basics. About James. About Marla. About the key. She wanted to slash his tires and post screenshots online. I told her I wasn't interested in screaming into the void. I wanted something deeper. I wanted them both to feel it. The first thing I did was talk to a lawyer. A good one. A divorce lawyer in downtown Nashville who didn't blink when I told him I didn't want to just leave, I wanted leverage. The house was in my name. That part was simple. But the rest would take some work. James didn't know I'd been collecting proof. He didn't know I had screenshots, logs, video clips, and even emails between them. Yes, emails. I'd guessed his laptop password months ago, back when he first started acting weird. I found messages in his drafts folder. Unsent. Probably written, then deleted. One said, I can't keep pretending. She doesn't deserve this. But I can't leave yet. Not until the house is sorted. Another, you make me feel alive again. But this is so messy. I don't know how to untangle it. He was scared. Good. While he was trying to untangle things, I was tying knots. Tighter and tighter. Marla, meanwhile, was back to posting sad widow content on Facebook. Photos of Dennis. Quotes about grief. Nothing about James, of course. She still wanted to play the innocent card. So I made a burner account. Followed her. Sent screenshots of her inside my kitchen to a few local community groups she was active in. No message. No caption. Just her face in my house. People started whispering. 2 weeks later, I drove by the neighborhood in broad daylight. James' truck was gone. Marla's car wasn't in the driveway. So I parked and walked over. I still had my key. I unlocked the door to my own home. It smelled different. Like lavender candles and something cheap and floral. There were changes. My wedding photo from the hallway? Gone. The framed print I bought on our anniversary? Replaced with a generic landscape. But the worst part? A coffee mug on the counter that said, World's Best Partner. I took it. Not just the mug. I took a few other things too, things that were mine but I knew Marla had probably redecorated. A throw pillow. My slow cooker. The bathroom towels I bought from Target last fall. Petty? Maybe. But I wanted her to feel what it was like to have something taken. That same night, James called me for the first time in over a week. Can we talk? He asked. I said sure. We met in the parking lot of a CVS middle of nowhere. Neutral ground. He looked like hell. Unshaven. Eyes tired. He asked how I was. I stared at him until he got uncomfortable. I never wanted this to happen, he said. Then why did you let it? He looked down. She was broken. I thought I was helping her. I didn't realize how far it had gone until I couldn't stop it. I laughed. A dry, cold laugh. You handed her the key to our house, James. She didn't steal it. You gave it to her. He started to say something. I cut him off. You need to leave the house tonight. He blinked. What? I'm not asking. I talked to a lawyer. The house is in my name. You want to stay with her? Fine. Do it. But you're not doing it in my bed. He didn't argue. He just nodded. The next morning, I had the locks changed. Then I did something that even I hadn't expected from myself. I sent Marla flowers. A huge bouquet. Yellow lilies, white roses. With a card that read, "Thanks for keeping him warm." He always did love leftovers. And then? I waited. Because a woman like her, so careful, so composed, wouldn't explode in public. But she would eventually crack. And when she did? I'd be there. Watching it all burn. 2 days after I sent Marla the flowers, I got a call from James. He was yelling. You had no right to do that, he snapped. You made her cry. I didn't respond at first. Just let him sit there in silence. Then I said, cry? Good. She should be crying. She should have cried the first time she walked into my house like it was hers. She's not the villain you think she is. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She's not the villain? I said slowly. She's been in our house. In our bed. Pretending to be me. And you let her. So yeah, if she's not the villain, then what the hell does that make you? He hung up. That was the last time I heard his voice in person. But not the last time I saw him. 3 weeks later, my friend Tara called me. Said she saw Marla and James together at a brunch spot in downtown Franklin. Said they looked like a couple. Said they were laughing. That's when it all clicked. He wasn't confused. He wasn't trapped. He was choosing her. So I made my final move. I knew Marla had a job. She worked part-time at a local nonprofit thrift store. She was a shift manager. Proud of it. Posted about it often. What she didn't know was that nonprofits, especially small ones, don't take kindly to scandal. I sent an anonymous email to her board of directors. With pictures. Not gossip. Just facts. A timeline. Screenshots of her entering my house while I was out. Security footage. Her in my kitchen. The doormat. I also included a note. Is this the image your organization wants to promote? A woman who inserts herself into other people's homes, lives, and marriages? I don't know what they said to her. But I know she stopped working there. Quietly. Her Facebook page disappeared the same week. And James? He lost more than he thought he would. After I filed for divorce, I requested financial disclosures. Turns out, he had quietly borrowed against his 401k to help fix up Marla's house. She wanted a new sunroom and a deck. He co-signed the loan. The market dipped. She bailed on the payments. He was stuck with the debt. And after I got the house and half of what was left in our joint account, he had nothing but a used truck, a bitter girlfriend, and a ruined reputation. A few months later, word got around that Marla left town. Moved in with a cousin in Georgia. James stayed. But people whispered. Everyone knew. And me? I moved on. Not quickly. Not easily. But cleanly. I sold the house. Started fresh in Chattanooga. Got a new job. Got a therapist. Stopped waking up angry. And one day, a year later, I got a message. It was from James. Just one line, I made a mistake. I didn't reply. I left it on read. Because yes, he made a mistake. So did I, once, when I ignored my gut. When I let kindness blind me. When I trusted too much, gave too much, stayed too long. But in the end, I learned. I learned that sometimes, revenge doesn't have to be fire and fury. Sometimes, it's just walking away with your head high, while they drown in the mess they made together.